And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and these are 20 commanders that I was wrong about. And of course, I did my cards I was wrong about a couple of weeks ago. And man, does everyone love hearing about the stuff I'm wrong about, because that video has the distinction of getting the most views that I've ever gotten on a video in the first day. Which, you know, I mean, I guess people just like knowing what I'm wrong about. It is, you know, I had a couple people comment on that video that they like that I can admit when I'm wrong and that kind of stuff. But it's not necessarily that I'm wrong about the card. It is also like a little bit of a surprise where I thought this would be more popular and people would be using it and maybe they're not. And that's more the case here with these commanders. These are all commanders that I talked about, obviously, on my channel, whether it be in a, you know, top 10 commanders from the set or just in general. I talked about the commander and I thought it was a really cool build around, and I was completely wrong about it. So all of these commanders fall into two different categories. Category one is I thought they were really good commanders and nobody else does and nobody's playing them. Or I thought these commanders were super busted and maybe I overreacted. So most of the commanders on this list are going to fall into that category. But also there's a few on this list that, you know, I didn't really talk about at all and are just really popular. And I just am shocked how popular they are. So let's get to the list, starting out at number 20, Henrika Domnathi. And this is one that I was pretty excited about when I first saw it get spoiled in Innistrad Crimson Vow. You know, I thought the modal aspect of it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you can choose one. Each player sacrifices a creature, draw a card to lose one life, or you transform it. And of course, when it transforms, it sort of becomes a tribal flying death touch lifelink thing, which is really cool. People like tribal, and it is incredibly unpopular. It is only got 76 decks currently on EDH Rec. It is the most unpopular commander from that set, which is shocking. So, you know, this one I don't really get. Some of these I don't get. Some of these I do get. This is one I don't get, but clearly I was wrong about it. I thought this commander was going to be popular. Next up at 19, we got Inga Runei's, and this one is a little bit different. This one falls into a category where it's just me. I totally understand why this one's unpopular. It's only got 21 decks currently on EDH Rec. I get it. It's a really hard commander to build around. I got really excited about this commander when it first got spoiled because I thought it was kind of neat. Enters the battlefield, you scry 3. When it dies, you draw 3 cards. If 3 or more creatures died this turn. I thought that's kind of an interesting strategy you don't see in mono blue, obviously. But yeah, it's just really difficult to build around. And I tried to tackle this one myself. I did end up doing it on my Underwhelming Commanders video. But even in there, I wasn't really in love with the deck that I came up with because it's just so difficult. You really want to build around that second ability, and it's so hard to do. And it's almost not worth it to have your creatures and your commander die just so you can draw 3 cards, you know. So I was wrong about this one in that I thought it was going to be a really interesting commander to build around, and it just wasn't. Coming in at number 18, Narfi Betrayer King. And this is one, again, from Kaldheim that I thought was going to be really popular and isn't. It's got 376 decks currently on EDH Rec, which is not bad. That's, you know, sort of, well, it's not middle of the road. It's probably lower tier. Anything in the 300 range is a deck that you're probably not going to see very often, if at all ever. I sort of just talked about this in my unpopular commanders video where there was a lot of commanders in there, and I think I might have included some in this list as well that I was just shocked how unpopular they were. And, you know, why certain commanders are unpopular and some aren't, you really could make a whole entire series of videos about that, I imagine. I talked about it a little bit in that video, and I guess I'm covering it a little bit in this video. This is one I thought would be more popular. You have the tribal aspect. You got snow tribal and zombie tribal. And then on top of that, Narfi has this really interesting ability where you can return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. It cheats commander tax, which that's really good. So man, I don't know. I'm really shocked this one is as unpopular as it is. I thought it would be way more popular. Coming in at number 17, Zalto Fire Giant Duke. This is not one that I talked about at all on my channel necessarily. I did talk about dungeons and how I didn't really like them, and I figured there would probably be a lot of people that didn't like them, and I was right. But there are some pretty popular dungeon commanders. This is one that I thought would have been way more popular. Whenever Zalto Fire Giant Duke is dealt damage, venture into the dungeon. I mean, how easy is that, right? It's really easy to just deal your commander 1 damage on maybe everyone else's turn with a Pyrohemia or a Pinger or something, and you can venture into the dungeon incredibly quickly. I mean, maybe the payoff isn't there. I honestly didn't look that closely at the payoff for those dungeons. I think it's mostly little things like creating 1/1 tokens and scrying and maybe drawing a card at best. So maybe that part of it's not worth it. Also, it's mono red, but still only 64 decks on EDH Rec right now. I thought this would be way more popular because there are a lot of people out there that do like the dungeon thing, and this is a really easy way to venture into the dungeon if you want to be doing that, right? Because dealing damage to your commander is really easy. Coming in at number 16, Kardur Doomscourge, and I think everyone knows where I'm going to go with this one. And just like a lot of people, this wasn't just me, nobody thought this guy would be so popular. Currently has 1,269 decks on EDH Rec. It is a pretty popular commander. I see it from time to time. I have a couple patrons with a Kardur Doomscourge deck, and it is a really difficult commander to play against. That is a really powerful ability, especially if you can repeatedly use that super goad ability, right? Because it is actually better than goading. So yeah, this is not a command. This commander totally flew under my radar. I thought his name was kind of goofy. If you watch my video when I first talk about him, I don't know if I still have it up or not, but yeah, not really anybody was talking about this first came out. So I think everyone was wrong about this one. This is actually a really good commander. Coming in at number 15, another Kaldheim commander. And there's a bunch of Kaldheim commanders on this list because I tended to overreact a little bit, when that set came out, because it was Commander Legends, and then right after that, we had Kaldheim, and there were so many powerful legendary creatures in Kaldheim that I was like, man, this is just getting ridiculous. And Morite of the Frost was one that I just thought was fantastic. Again, because it's doing so much. It is a legendary snow creature, and the permanent that Morite is copying also has become snow, so you can use that to your advantage. It can copy any permanent. I already did a deck tech on my channel. I've done two. This is the only commander that I've done two deck techs with, and I did one where I did more the changeling, all tribal, omni tribal, whatever you want to call it, where I have a bunch of lord effects. I did that one. And then I did another one where Morite is copying a land, and then you're sort of turning that land into a creature and doing sort of a Voltron strategy there, which I thought was a really interesting one. There's just so many ways to go with this commander. I can't believe how unpopular it is. And there is yet another idea that I'm now toying with Morite as well. 375 decks currently on EDH Rec. That's all. And again, for me, I'm wrong about this because I thought it would be crazy popular. I thought it would be up in the like 2,000, 3,000 deck range, a really popular commander that I would be running into all the time. Again, you can watch my spoiler video when I talked about it. I was shocked at how good this commander was and how much you could do with it. I can't believe how unpopular it is. Coming in at number 14, Eudora Grave Gardener. And this is one that, again, I thought would be really, really popular. It is 696 decks on EDH Rec. That's pretty good. That's getting to that mid-tier range. Again, though, never played against this myself. I don't know. It's been out for almost a year now, and I've never actually seen a Eudora deck out there in the wild. Again, another one I did on my channel because just there's so many ways you could go with it. It's just so unique in what it's doing. I had this really high on my C21 ranking list of commanders because it was just so unique in what you were doing. It's turning your creatures into forests. That is entirely unique. There's no other card that does that, of course. So, and the combo potential too, right? I think a combo potential for commanders usually sort of lifts them a little higher in the ranks. So 696, not bad. I just thought, again, it would probably be more like, 1,500, 2,000, something like that. Coming in at number 13, Odric Blood Cursed. And this one is on here for, again, similar to Kardur. It's only got 263 decks on EDH Rec right now. That's not a lot. And I know it's weird for me to have Eudora, which has over 600 decks. And then I got Odric on here, which has only 263. But this is the one that I thought would be at the absolute bottom for Innistrad Crimson Vow. And a lot of other content creators did as well. I saw a lot of people sort of poo-pooing all over this guy, and rightfully so. He is pretty tough to build around. Like I've said, I think a few times to my patrons, it would have been really nice if he just had First Strike so that when he enters the battlefield, I mean, it would make sense that he had First Strike, and then when he enters the battlefield, at least you're guaranteed one of those blood tokens. But there are quite a few people out there making this deck. I have a patron with this deck. He actually won the game with it. Pretty impressive, so, I'm wrong about this in that I thought it was going to be super unpopular and terrible, and it's actually not bad. Coming in at number 12 is Jaren Corrupted Bishop. And this one is, I think, definitely one that I was wrong about. I think it's a pretty interesting commander. I mean, it's doing a lot. You're doing sort of human tribal. I think it goes in the 99 of a lot of decks. Maybe it's a little difficult to play as a commander. You know, that ability at the beginning of your end step, if you have exactly 13 life, you may pay 6. They could have made that, you know, and the backside is really, really good, right? Just sacrificing creatures to draw cards is fantastic, obviously. But, I mean, paying the 6 on top of the fact that your life has to be at 13 and your opponents can respond, which they probably will because they won't want you to flip it. They can just kill your commander in response to you paying the 6. Oof, yeah, that's pretty rough. I had this, I think, at number 2 on my top commanders for Midnight Hunt, and yeah, it probably shouldn't have been on the list at all. Maybe I think it's an interesting commander. It definitely is. It's doing a lot of stuff, and for me, I think that's why I had it so high, because I always like when the commanders are doing a lot of things. It's only got 218 decks currently on EDH Rec, and that's probably where it will stay. You know, I think that's probably about where it should be. Speaking of Midnight Hunt, coming in at number 11 is Ludwig Necrogenius, and I've already gotten a pushback from this after I had this at number 1. People are like, wow, really? It is not as good as a Mimeoplasm. You know, that's sort of the thing with these commanders is if you can find a better version of it, then why would you ever play it? I hear that a lot. It's not a great argument, in my opinion, for playing a commander. Ludwig is different. It's not entirely different, but it's different. Yes, you're playing less colors too, which most people don't like. I don't care about that, right? I don't mind if it's only 2 colors. There's a whole ton of creatures that you could be copying in Dimir colors. I don't need the green, right? So for me, I thought it was a super interesting commander, slightly different than the Mimeoplasm, and there is some things you can do there that I think are better. In particular, and I'll just throw out a deck idea here. I actually did a deck tech for Ludwig on my channel, but I came up with another idea afterwards, and that is getting around ETB creatures, right? That's another thing you can do with Ludwig that you cannot do with the Mimeoplasm or some of these other sort of recursion ideas, which is you have, for example, a Eater of Days, right? There's a creature that has a horrible ETB that you don't want. Ludwig isn't ETBing, right? So you can get around that. Phage is another one, right? You can exile a Phage here and you don't have to worry about the ETB losing you the game because Ludwig's already on the battlefield. So it is interesting that way. That would be one interesting to build a Ludwig deck, but I mean, maybe I overreacted with how good this commander was. It's probably not the best from the set. I mean, it certainly is not the best from the set. Only 159 decks currently on EDH Rec. Definitely not a popular one at all. Getting into the top 10, Modi, Celebrant of Bounty. And there's going to be a few commanders in the top 10 that are just like, in my opinion, came out of nowhere. I didn't think they were very interesting at all, and they are way more popular than I would have ever guessed. I thought Amodi was pretty boring. I mean, it's got Cascade. Spells you cast with converted mana cost 6 or greater have Cascade. How often are you going to be doing that? I mean, I guess in Simic it's a little easier, but then you have to fill your deck with really expensive stuff. It just didn't seem like a great build around to me at all. It currently has 1,130 decks. And again, comparing it to some of the other commanders that were lower on this list that I think are way more interesting and have way less decks. Even Eudora, who had almost 700 decks, is a way more interesting and pretty powerful commander. I don't get it. I really don't. I don't know why this one's so popular. It's Simic. That's got to be the only one. People really like Cascade. I guess I'm not a big Cascade fan. I don't like the randomness of it myself, especially when it's this limited. So yeah, I'm really shocked how popular this is. Coming in at number 9, Tauren's Fist of the Angels. And this is another one that just completely flew under the radar for me. I didn't talk about it at all. I didn't have it on my top 10 commanders from the set. Didn't think it was great. I mean, the training ability is not great. It's even worse than the mentor ability. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 green and white human soldier creature token with training. So again, the training part doesn't really matter. I think people really like the fact that you're casting a creature spell and creating that 1/1 token. Maybe there's some combo potential there. I don't know. Man, I saw this really high on some lists of people's favorite commanders from the set. Currently has 833 decks. That's pretty darn good. Way more popular than I thought it would be. I think it's kind of boring, right? Even if you think this is a pretty powerful ability, it's a very boring ability. I cast a creature, I get a creature token. I mean, okay, I'm sure there's some combo potential there where you could sort of go off with it or whatever. I suppose you could sack the tokens to an alter effect and cast more creatures. Yeah, I mean, there is that potential. Again, I don't find that particularly exciting at all. And again, Chulane might even be way better at that than Torrens. But nevertheless, all in all, I'm really shocked how popular it is, because I just think it's a very boring commander. Completely flew under the radar for me. Coming in at number 8 is Quain, Itinerant Meddler. And the reason this one is so high on the list is, again, I'm just so shocked how popular it is. I think you can go back and check my review of Commander Legends, which was one of my first videos on my channel. I think I did it in 3 different parts. And Quain, I was just not high on at all, because it just seemed like a hug commander to me, right? Each player may draw a card. Okay, you're letting your opponents draw. That's never a good thing. Then each player who drew a card this way gains 1 life. So you're letting your opponents gain life as well. And also it's a May, so it's not even a forced draw. That's the part where I was like, oh, well, you can't even force your opponents to draw and build around that. So if you have a Hull Breacher type of effect, your opponents, which is now banned, but your opponents can just forego drawing and you will get nothing out of it anyway. So that's not even a benefit there either. 1,748 decks. Wow. Again, I thought a lot of people would make goofy hug decks, meme decks and stuff, and this would be around 500. 1,700. I have a patron with this deck. He likes it a lot. Interestingly enough, it's on the first gameplay video on my channel. So you can see it in action there. I mean, it's an interesting deck. He obviously breaks symmetry a lot with the card draw and the life gain. Alhamaratra's Archive is obviously probably one of the best cards you can put in a Quain deck. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are just doing hug as well. The false hug, I'm hugging, but actually I'm not. That strategy does work well. So, but man, still 1,700? There's no one else out there that is as surprised as I am how popular that commander is? Coming in at number 7, Rutha, Mercurial Artist. And again, this was another one I mentioned several times on my channel, and I mentioned on my video. I think this is probably the only one I actually mentioned on the video of commanders that I'm just shocked at how unpopular they are. Only has 214 decks. Like what? I don't get it. And again, I had this really high on my Strixhaven commanders ranking list, and I'm shocked. It's doing the Is It Spellslinger thing. It's copying spells, which people really like. I guess the returning to hand thing is the thing that sort of really holds people back. There are lots of ways around that too, though. Again, I just don't get it. I'm not sure why this one, Rutha and Morite, those are the 2 commanders that for me, I do not get why they're not very popular. I think they're both great, and there's a lot of really interesting things you can do there. And also, they're kind of doing the stuff that people like to do. So both of those commanders completely shocked why they're not more popular. Rutha, I just don't get it. I think it's a great commander. 214 decks is almost nothing, right? Again, that's a commander that you're maybe never ever going to see in a commander game out in the wild. Coming in at number 6, Vargoth, Bloodsky Sire, another commander from Kaldheim that I might have overreacted on, but still, I don't get it. It's a tutor in the command zone. A lot of people put this in the 99 of decks because it is a repeatable tutor, and that totally makes sense, but I'm surprised there isn't more people that want a repeatable tutor in the command zone. Only 357 decks on EDH Rec. Again, that's almost nothing. That's a commander that you might never actually see out there in the wild. I've never seen it myself. Again, I've seen it in the 99 of a few decks, but this one I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I thought this might even be a CEDH commander because just tutoring for your combo pieces seems pretty good. All you have to do is attack. That's not that difficult. Has death touch, so your opponents aren't even going to want to block it. This just seems like such an easy build around and has a lot of potential. Again, you can do a lot of different things. As long as you're in a mono black theme, you can do a ton of stuff. You could play a Kaldra Assemble deck with Vargoth because you can just go tutor for all those pieces and assemble, right? There's so many things you can do there. So I'm really shocked this one isn't more popular. Coming in at number 5, Rograk, Son of Roga. And I was wrong about this one again because I was just like, yeah, it's okay. I thought it would be sort of a meme deck. It's kind of cute. It's a 0 mana commander that, that in itself, I think might lend itself to, a lot of people playing it. 5,646 partner decks on EDH Rec. Now, of course, the partner thing, it is really hard to guess when it ever comes to partners. I did not think that this was going to be one of the most popular partners from Commander Legends. I don't think anybody did. I can't believe it's in 5,600 partner decks on EDHREC. That's incredible. It is so popular. I guess it goes with a lot of different things, and most notably, it goes with my number 4 commander on this list, which is Ardenn Intrepid Archaeologist. And I promise you, nobody, including myself, no content creator out there was talking about how, I mean, you could find me the evidence if you want, but which content creator out there was going, oh man, Ardenn is ridiculously good. Everyone's going to be playing them, and he's going to be one of the most popular partners from the set. I don't think anybody was. I didn't hear it. Again, 4,417 decks, 4,417 partner decks. And of course, those two combined, Rograk and Ardenn, are now the most popular Boros commander. They have beaten out Oscar, they have beaten out Feather, they have beaten out Wynota. The most popular Boros commander is a partner pairing of Rograk and Ardenn. Anybody else shocked by that? So I got this wrong because both of them, I thought, were just like, yeah, they're okay, I guess. No, I mean, nobody would have guessed that. I think everyone is wrong about that. If there's a person out there that thought Rograk and Ardenn were going to be the most popular Boros commander or one of the most popular partner pairings from Commander Legends, raise your hand. I mean, I don't think that person exists. I don't think anyone would have saw this one coming. Coming in at number 3, yet another Kaldheim commander that I overreacted with, Birgi, God of Storytelling. And I think a lot of people would say the same. It is hard to guess with these MDFC commanders. I talked about this with Embrose and Shale, and there was a few people that commented on that video, my unpopular commanders video, about how the MDFC thing actually can hold people back, which I find surprising. I would think a commander would be more popular. Yeah, you can't play both sides typically, but you can build both sides in completely different ways. And if you look at decks on EDHREC, it's here's someone building the front side of Birgi, right? They're building a Storm deck, and then you have a whole bunch of people that are building the backside of Birgi, right? The Harnfell Horn of Bounty. So that is going to increase. You have double the amount of decks essentially, or you should. So that's going to very much increase the amount of decks on EDHREC. At least that's the way I think about it. Birgi currently only has 871 decks. Again, that's pretty good. But again, another commander that I have seen in the 99 more than I've actually seen it as a deck, which is surprising. This is another commander that I was sort of maybe flipping out about when it came out. I think a lot of people were. I saw a lot of people who were freaking out a little bit over the power level of Birgi when it first came out. And has that kept people away from it? You know, we're in a weird place now where when powerful commanders used to come out in like 2017, 2018, people would jump on them right away. Maybe we've gotten to a place, starting last year where people didn't necessarily jump on a super powerful commander right away. They're like, I'll avoid it because it's not very casual and it's going to make me a target. Sort of my strategy. So maybe people actually avoid Birgi for that reason, but definitely not nearly as popular as I thought it would be. And probably taking the cake for not as popular as I thought it would be is Jadzi Oracle of Arcavios. And again, another one that I had a pretty heavy reaction to when it first got spoiled. A lot of people did. I mean, it is incredibly busted commander without question. The backside Journey to the Oracle only helps you cast your commander a lot easier. In fact, I even have a patron building a deck around Journey to the Oracle because you may put any number of land cards from your hand onto the battlefield. That in itself is an incredibly powerful ability. The fact that you can return it to your hand and then cast your Jadzi, yeah, it cost 8, but guess what? You just dumped all your lands into play. Shouldn't be hard to cast. And then of course, the ability of Jadzi is incredibly powerful. Only currently has 707 decks on EDHREC. I mean, 707 again that's pretty good. That's around in the middle. That's a commander that you may see from time to time. I thought this was going to be one of the most popular commanders in Simic colors, for sure. It is the 23rd most popular Simic commander. 23rd. Emoti, which I already mentioned, is quite a bit more popular than Jadzi. Anyone else surprised by that? Like, I totally thought that this was going to be the most popular commander from the entire set. It was not even close. It's not even remotely close to being the most popular. When I did my set review overall, I talked about how much I loved Strixhaven as a commander set, and Jadzi was the one black eye from the set that I didn't like. I loved everything else. Jadzi was like, they went too far with that. The fact that it isn't that popular of a commander is absolutely shocking for me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of other people as well. But coming in at number 1, Prosper Tomebound. And the reason why this is number 1 is because, again, I just didn't talk about it at all. At the beginning of your end step, exile a top card of your library. Until end of your next turn, you may play that card. I mean, that's okay. There's a zillion cards out there that do that already, right? Impulse Draw. Whenever you play a card from exile, create a treasure token. I guess the combo potential here is maybe something that sort of came out of nowhere. This commander really did come out of nowhere. I mean, a lot of people got to admit, even though this totally flew under the radar for me, a lot of people must admit that when you first see Prosper, you don't go, oh, that's so busted. Oh, wow, look at how good that is. You don't, right? Maybe after you start playing it, you realize, okay, I can exile a lot of stuff, do a lot of impulse draw, create a lot of treasure tokens. The treasure tokens I can use to do more impulse draw. And again, I've never actually played against this deck in the wild. I imagine that's probably what is happening in that deck. 5,426 decks on EDH Rect. 5,400. Shocking. So I was dead wrong about this because I didn't mention it at all because I didn't think it was very good. It is far and away the most popular Rakdos commander, and I mean far and away. Angie Falconwrath, which was the most popular Rakdos commander for a long time, is 2,940. It is second place right now with only 2,900. Prosper Tomebound, 5,500. In the top commanders in the entire format, it's number 14. Again, who would have guessed that? I certainly wouldn't have. I mean, Rakdos in general, that color combination isn't very popular. I mean, again, you look at Simic, a very popular color combination. Kinnan Bonder Prodigy, the most popular Simic commander, only has 3,400 decks. Icy Tyrant of Gyre Strait, the second most popular, only has slightly over 3,400 as well. 5,500. I mean, I would have never guessed that when I first saw it. I still am shocked by it. So I was wrong in that it is one of the most popular commanders in the entire format now, and I didn't even give it a mention. I don't know if anyone saw this coming. I certainly didn't. But that is it. That is all. Those are 20 commanders that I got wrong in my initial assessment, whether it was I ranked them too high or I thought they were super busted, but yet they're not very popular. And there still is, Jadzi is still a really busted commander, I think. Why not so popular? I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a specific reason there. Bergie, same thing. Varagos, same thing. Maybe it is a little bit of people trying to avoid those super busted commanders so that they don't get hated out of games. That certainly could be a scenario. And if it is, that's great. I'm glad, because that's definitely how I play the game. Are there some commanders out there that you thought were going to be super, super popular and aren't at all? Or commanders that you can't believe how popular they are and you were totally wrong about them? Comment below and let me know. But that is it for today. And thanks for tuning in.